this yesterday. Success is a function, error is a function, options is a object of options, which are going to start seeing more now. Okay, so as we're starting to progress or advance with our JavaScript, you're going to start seeing this a lot more, where people request options or parameters as a singular object. And what this does is it allows them to name their parameters or their arguments and allows them to put them in whatever order they want. For example, this options one here, the last argument, I can put in any of these 3 different parameters, these different keys as an argument inside here. I can include all 3, enable high accuracy, timeout, maximum age. I can put all 3 in here as keys, and I can put them in any order. And that's the nice thing about using objects as an argument, is that if I didn't use this, I would have had to say, and it takes up to 3 other arguments in it. This one's enable high accuracy, this one's timeout, and this one's maximum age. And you're like, oh, I don't want this one, and I don't want this one. So I'm going to put maximum age 5. And then you read this, and you're like, oh, this doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Why is there 2 nulls here? Why is there just a number? The nice thing about going the other way with something like this is we're able to actually, 1, give these arguments names, 2, put them in any order we want, and 3, they're completely optional, right? I mean, yes, these are optional too, but you'll see that there's a lot of JavaScript that does. This is a style, okay? It's not a requirement. It's simply a style. People have identified that this is kind of beneficial. It gives you named arguments, optional named arguments, okay? So you start seeing that a lot more now. These are completely optional anyways. So really all we need is the success one. And that's the only one I want to use. And I'm just going to write my own. Okay. Position. That's what it takes. That's what it provides, right? It takes a callback. It takes a callback. So when this happens and it is successful, it will run my function here. Okay. And that success does not occur until they click allow or block. Block, I don't know what you would want to do in the case of block. Has anyone thought of a good idea of what you would do in this case? If someone said, or not block, deny. If someone said deny, what would you do? If this was your product, a mapping product, right? What would your approach be? Not from a coding perspective, from a usability perspective. You go to a website, the website is a map, okay? And the map is supposed to pinpoint your location and then allow you to search locations close by. If someone clicked deny and you weren't able to pinpoint locations, what would be your fallback? What would be your approach at that point? Well, I can't pinpoint their location anymore, boss. What are you going to tell your boss could be an alternative?
Make a new map.
Make a new map. Where are we going to position them?
To 0. Set zoom to 0.
So like a totally zoomed out map. Okay. Okay. What do the shopping websites do when you say no? I won't use don't use my location. Then how do they determine the closest store?
They usually ask for like a postal code.
They ask for your postal code. Yeah. So, or they prompt you like, please select your closest store, right? So that is the alternative, right? So you can think about that. Now we're not going to implement that, but I just want you to practice thinking about stuff like that, because we do stuff like that. A lot of times people will come to us with these ideas. Hey, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then we're going to have to break it to them. Well, yeah, but the user can always deny this, or they can always block this. Now, and then we're not just saying what's possible and what's not possible. They're also counting on us to come up with ideas. So this is not possible. So, or the user might do this. So what I would recommend is when they do this, this is our approach. Okay. So yeah, I would probably do something like on success, we will find their location, we'll drop the pin. On block or deny, we will prompt them for their postal code, or we will prompt them with a list of drop downs, like cities, major cities across Canada. I don't know, right? Type in your address, maybe, right? There's a lot of different things. Why would someone not allow? Why would someone click deny? What motivation do you think someone would have to click deny?
For me, I don't want people to know where I am.
Yeah.
Not leave any trace.
Right? Yeah, privacy. Yeah, I know. For me, it always pops up. Like I leave that on because I want them to ask. Because some sites I do let track, but there's other sites, like every site wants to send me notifications, right? So I'd say deny, like just flat out deny every single website as a rule in Chrome. So it doesn't even ask me anymore. But that, because privacy, just like annoyance, right? Okay, so these are all things that you have to think about when you're programming, okay? Aside from the code. Aside from the code, there's a lot of other things that we need to consider. Usability is a big one. We haven't talked about usability, but we need to think about usability. Usability is about how the people use our products, okay? Have any of you watched the television show Silicon Valley? None of you? Okay, you have. Okay, so they're engineers, software developers, they create a product, okay? Amazing technology, brilliant idea, and they finally go to market and no one wants to buy their product because it's not usable, right? So that's very common. Because as software developers, we think very technically. Your weekend assignment is to watch Silicon Valley.
Just to check, it's the Pied Piper thing, right?
Yeah, Pied Piper.
Okay.
Been meaning to do that anyways.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so funny. And I think now you will probably appreciate it a little bit more. Okay, so let's get back to this here. So we have our get current position, and all we're going to do is we're going to console log, okay, our position dot coords dot latitude, okay, and position dot coords dot longitude. So this will give us our current position. Inside this position object, as you saw, there is some two properties, okay? There is a timestamp and there is another coords property, okay? And then on top of that, we also have heading, which is cool, right? Where we're going, the speed at which we're going there, our current longitude and latitude, as well as our altitude accuracy. That's interesting. So we're just going to print out these longitude and latitude because those are the ones that we need. Okay. And let's just see if this works. So we'll hop on over to our incomplete maps here and we'll allow and we'll view. And there we go. We have our longitude and our latitude. Perfect. Okay. Next up, we were going to take that and display it, put it on a map. import Mapbox.gl library and its associated JS files as shown in the Quick Start Guide, and the example of displaying a simple map. Okay, so we have our Quick Start Guide, and I went over this yesterday. Okay, there are 17,000 different ways of importing JavaScript into your project. And so you're going to be presented with all of them every time. And so part of your job is to wade through the data that you don't need, wade through the information that you don't need, and try to look for the stuff that you do need. So with any, like for example, I'm going to pop over to moment.js because that was probably the most recent one that we had talked about, that has like 18 different ways to install. Okay, so when you go, so Moment.js was a library to help you manage dates and times in JavaScript. Okay, so it adds to the date and time management. Okay, to add some new stuff. So if you go over to the docs here, the first thing is where to use it, essentially how to install it. Okay, and let's look at the different ways to install. Node.js, Browser, Bower, Require.js, NuGet, Meteor, Browserify, Webpack, TypeScript, System.js, and other. So these are all ways of installing this library. Okay. Out of all of those, which ones look familiar and do you think we might be interested in? So we got these ones on the side here: Node.js, Browser, Bower, Require, NuGet, Meteor, Browserify, Webpack, TypeScript, System.js.
Well, we know Node and Browser, and I think it was it yesterday or the day before you were talking about Webpack?
Not me. TypeScript?
I thought I heard somebody talking about Webpack.
Oh, maybe someone did.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Require?
Oh, we have heard the term require, yeah. So actually Require is kind of, it's a little bit old, and it's kind of been incorporated into Node. But yeah, so Node.js and Browser, right? Browser being, this is how we include it so these are the ones that you're going to be looking for. Oftentimes Browser, if you're doing stuff with HTML like this, right, where we want to insert a tag that links to that JavaScript, okay, we're going to be looking for something like this, okay, something with script tags like this. This one over here, this one's Node for installing via Node.js, npm install moment. Now we know these are two very different approaches for developing software, right? This one is for the browser, this one is more for the system, okay? So you can kind of determine what you want from that. But yeah, every single JavaScript library is going to have something like this. So it's really important when you're reading this documentation to kind of wade through it and figure that out, not get tricked and just be like, it'll say installation, Node.js, and then you just blindly follow, right? When you're going through documentation, it's not typically a step-by-step guide. It's typically more like a dictionary. You don't read the dictionary from back to front, right? You go to the spot that you need to, you find what the information that you need to, and you use that. You don't always take the first definition of the word because that may not be the definition that applies. So in our case, if we go back over here, okay, we're not interested in module bundler, okay, but we could be npm install Mapbox.gl. So we could be interested in, and this is the npm version, but we are interested in this. Include this in the JavaScript in our head file. Great. We looked at that yesterday. Okay, so we have one script tag and one style sheet. If you were really interested, you could go and look at their JavaScript, Okay, I wouldn't recommend it, but this is what it looks like. Crazy, hey? This is the Mapbox JavaScript. And then we need to include this stuff. Now, again, as I mentioned, you could technically include it inside these script tags anywhere, but we're better than that. We understand our stuff better than that. Anything that is included, the way JavaScript is managed on our webpage is essentially all these scripts are loaded in order, top to bottom, and executed in order, top to bottom. If they declared any variables inside of their JavaScript file, inside my JavaScript file, I can access them, right? There's no, you don't have the ability to, there's no container ability in JavaScript really, right? Like if there's anything sitting in the global scope in their JavaScript file, I can access it in my JavaScript file. And I do this right here, this Mapbox.gl object, that is the access point that they have provided me. They have created something in their JavaScript file that looks kind of like this. And then everything else is in here. And that means, actually, so it'd be kind of more like this. So that means, I bet you actually, if we look at their JavaScript file, we'll see that right off the top. What's it called? Mapbox.gl. So they have a variable called Mapbox.gl, okay? And that is what everything is, most of their stuff is stored in. So that provides like a container, so it protects a lot of their stuff. So I can't accidentally overwrite or destroy one of their variables that makes their stuff work inside of here by redeclaring it in mine. Except for this one, that Mapbox.gl, right? If I'd redeclared that, I'd be stupid. And now I called it an empty array. Well, now Mapbox doesn't work at all, okay? So that's something that they're doing to protect their variables from, not from me physically destroying it in their JavaScript file, but from me accidentally overriding it and causing their library to break in my program, okay? So they're protecting their library. So their library will continue to work no matter what new variables I declare. Okay. So that's essentially what they're doing here, which is why they have this weird way of declaring this access token. Okay. So we need to declare this access token exactly like this because this is the method that they're expecting it to be in. Okay. So inside their code, they're going to go look at a variable called access token. And it's going to be set to this, a property called access token on Mapbox.gl. And then we have this. We have our container here. Okay, and actually, I'm going to put this inside my geolocation get current position. Let's say const. Okay, because I only want to, I'm only, like, in all honesty, for this example, I only want to draw this map if my latitude and my longitude have been set. So if the user has allowed, if they didn't allow, I'm not even going to draw the map. This function won't even run. And I'm okay with that for this example. Okay, again, as we mentioned, if this was a bigger application and we needed to do something alternative, then I would do something alternative. I would do an alternative. Okay, so we're going to just start with this, and we're going to save this. Okay, and we're going to refresh this. We'll allow, we print out the coordinates, and we start with a map. Cool. Now, not very useful, okay? Because we want to zoom in and we want to center it on a location, okay? And I believe I gave you some additional info there. Example of displaying a simple map. Now, in their example of displaying a simple map, they're providing you with, so they demonstrate it in two different ways. The way that they demonstrate it here on the web page, they have it all in line, okay? They have it all in their HTML. And that's not realistic. That's not really how people program, right? But the reason why they would do that is because they want to show you everything that's going on in one teeny tiny box, okay? So they're only doing it for demonstration purposes. The intention is not for you to come and take their style and take their script and be like, this is what they showed me, this is how I have to do it. No, no, no. The intention is to demonstrate how it can be used, not how it must be used. So actually, if you go and you view these in JSFiddle or CodePen, which are online like editors, okay, something that we'll probably use later, you'll see that they're broken up into HTML, which only has a div, CSS, which has just some styling, right? Body margin 0, okay, with 100% on the map, so it takes up the whole screen. And then into the Jet.js, so you can see how they're separating it here, right? It's properly separated in CodePen, unlike as they show on their website. And again, that's just because it's much easier to demonstrate like this on their website, even though I think they should put it in line pen. But, okay. So something that's being demonstrated here that we haven't seen yet in the first little piece on how to draw a map is these two. Center and zoom. And they also have a different version of the style. If you were interested in showing different map styles, Mapbox has like 20 different map styles. So they've got like dark ones, light ones, satellite, streets. They've got some really interesting ones. Some of them are better for what you're trying to achieve, but okay. So we have center and zoom. And they've got little comments right beside them. Starting position, longitude, latitude. Interesting. And zoom, our starting zoom level. What would happen if I change this? See what happens to this map. Oh, it zooms way in. What happens if I change it, lower it?
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Does the documentation outline like how far or do you just play with the zoom?
I bet you it does. I wouldn't be surprised, but it may not mean anything to you. Like, okay. It may not mean anything to me either. So let's look at the documentation.
I'm just curious.
No, yeah. No, I think that's a good question, and I wanted to come here eventually, but the documentation here is complicated, and it's complicated because it's thorough. Okay, generally, the more user-friendly documentation is, the less thorough it is, which is a trade-off, right? So we are creating a map object, right? And we know that because it's a dot uppercase M, new map. That's essentially what you got to kind of ignore this. New map, we're creating a new specific map. So this is our reference here, capital M map, okay? All of these things here, these instance members, these are functions. These are methods on this map. If I type in map dot, oh, they don't have it. Okay, these are all methods on this map. So I can ask map dot is zooming, map dot double click zoom, map dot get style, map dot add image. I can do all of those. Now, how does it work? To find out how they work, you would have to click on it. Map dot resize. Okay, what does map dot resize do? Resizes the map according to the dimensions of its container element. So if I were to change the size of the div that the map is in, I would probably want to call map.resize after, right, to adjust the size of the map, okay, because the map won't automatically adjust. But we want to look at zoom, right? So right below map, it has how it's declared, right? New map, but also parameters. And these are the parameters, right? Again, look at this. It's using an object as a single argument that takes keys and values. And that makes it really nice for indicate, and there's no order, right? These can be in any order, doesn't matter. Which is why we always have that trailing comma, so we can just copy, paste, and everything just keeps working, okay? So here are some of the options. So options is an object, right? Options is an object. And we already specified the container. And we also specified the style. So there's a lot of different options here. Okay, there's that style. C-Y-L-E. Style. The map box's style. Here's all the different styles. Okay, and we were looking for zoom, right? Zoom. Okay. Options hash. Okay. No, that's not what I want.
Just a quick question, John.
Yep.
Option style, is that just referring to like a default like map like layout that they provide you, or what is the actual?
That's this.
Okay, but what are the actual different styles? Is it just like a different layout or
different color? So like let's take a different one. Let's do
like night and day.
Yeah, let's try this one.
Okay.
Let's take a look at what that one looks like. Okay, I have no idea. And then it was excuse me. Zoom. Oh, center. It's called center. No, zoom. Yeah, zoom. Starting zoom. I didn't see zoom on here.
I did. It was right above it. It goes from 0 to 24. Right there.
I see min zoom and max zoom.
Yeah, max zoom.
But I don't see like
initial
starting zoom, initial zoom. Yeah. And zoom. Zoom. Scroll zoom, box zoom. Double click zoom. Zoom. The initial zoom level of the map, if zoom is not specified. In the constructor options, it will look for it in the map's style object. If it's not specified in style either, default is set to 0. So it doesn't say, but you can infer something, right? Maximum zoom is 2024. Minimum zoom is 0. And it's cool that you can set the minimum and maximum too. So you won't let someone zoom out more than a certain amount, or you won't let someone zoom in more than a certain amount.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that you would just play with those numbers to figure out the zoom that you want. Yeah.
So let's say like we're making like a map and we want it localized to Manitoba, then we can limit the max zoom out, so then you can't zoom out anything else.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is too, you can border bounds. So if set, so maximum bounds.
Oh, nice.
If set, the map will be constrained to the given bounds. Yeah, you can also box zoom if true. The box zoom interaction is, oh no, that's not. There's boxes, border boxes. You can create borders and say, oh, the initial bounds in the map. If bounds is specified, it overrides center and zoom. So yeah, you can do anything you want. You just got to figure out the right combination of things. Like, the reason why this is complicated is because they're like, we want to give people a tool where they can build anything they want. And in order to do that, it's got to be full of options. And as soon as you make something full of options, it gets really complicated. So yeah, it's just a matter of going through this and checking out to see what some of these things do. Some of these things are interesting, like if interactive, if false. You will not be able to interact with the map. So if I say interactive, false, my mouse does no longer works on this map. We were going to say zoom, let's say, yeah, 14. And we were also going to put down center. So center is starting position, longitude and latitude. So let's drop that in here. Okay. Now we don't want these ones. We want these ones. Latitude, longitude. So it wants, unlike most conventions, latitude, longitude. This one in particular, I know that because it says right here, long lat, wants long first, lat second. Okay, so let's check this out. I've added interactive false just for fun and a different style on the map. We'll take this out right here. Save. Okay, and we'll refresh this page. It prompts me every time. This is, ooh, I like this one. This is dark mode. Okay, so it has centered me. This is the area I live in. Okay, it has centered me in there. And let me try to interact with this map. Click, nothing. Can't zoom in, can't zoom out, can't move it. It's stuck. And that's because I have this interactive false. And again, just, it's about going through the documentation, figuring out what you want. Sometimes things are harder to figure out than others. Like, I can't get this thing to work. And I struggled with some of these things, which is why I linked you to very specific things on like areas of the, areas that would give you something like this that you can kind of take as a sample and be like, oh, okay, I can figure this out. Okay. So there you have it. So there is our map centered on an area. Where is it? Right here. I'm going to refresh. And now we can zoom in and zoom out and move around because I took that off. Okay. Any questions so far? Cool. And the last piece that I asked you, that part of phase one, was to drop a marker. And here is an example of how to drop a marker. Now, again, they're doing it all in one little thing, but you would go over to CodePen, maybe, I don't know, but you would look at the JavaScript, right? Our focus should be the JavaScript. And we would figure out what they're trying to accomplish here and how they're doing it. We already have this. We already have this stuff, which should suggest to me, this is probably how we add the marker. Let's copy and paste that. Bring it over here. And dissect it. So we're essentially creating a new marker object, right? A new instance of a marker class, right? New marker, new map, okay? And we're giving it a set of coordinates and we're adding it to a map, an instance of a map. So this isn't add to the map or add to the string map. This is a variable, right? This is a variable that refers back to this variable, which is this map in particular, because we can have multiple maps per page. And so it needs to know which map we want to add it to, right? So where are we going to drop this? Probably the place that we centered our map on. Okay. And that's pretty much it. We come back here, we refresh, and we get a marker. Now, this is the default marker. You are able to, if you go look at the documentation, okay, not something I'm asking you to do, you can see there is a user interface category. These are all just categories. User interface category, marker. And the marker creates a marker component. It also has an object options. So it also can take things in here, just like our map can. And it includes the DOM element to use as the marker, right? So we can use element to put as a marker. We can put our own image. We can put our own marker color, right? Color. So I don't have to use blue. I can use red. And now my marker is going to be red, I hope. Yeah. So we can use different colors. We're able to, if we look at the API, at the reference here, okay, is it draggable? Can we move that marker around? Default, false, takes a Boolean, indicating whether or not the marker is able to be dragged to a new position. Rotation, pitch alignment, offset. Offset means like, is it offset from the location that we specified? Maybe by pixels, okay? Anchor, how is it? By default, the anchor typically for map stuff is it's anchored right at that little bottom point there. But we can set that, no, don't anchor at this bottom point here. Anchor at the top right-hand corner. Like the top right-hand corner would be right over the current location. Okay, so that was your goal for yesterday. That was phase one, okay? This would be a great opportunity for us to git add dot, git commit. Probably a little bit of work here. Adds map and marker to user's current location. And we'll just do I'll show you how to push a branch while we're here. Not something I'm ever going to ask you to do, but I'll show you how to do it anyways. So we have our branch run phase one, git push -u, because we want to track this one, right? As upstream, we want to connect our phase one branch to GitHub's phase one branch. Origin. Origin is GitHub. Okay, because that's what we called it. We called it origin. If you look at git remote -v, it has the name of the remote. We called it origin, okay, when we created it. If you look at our history, remotes, you can see we said git remote add. Then you give it a name, and then you give it the URL. So GitHub tells us to give it the name origin, and origin is kind of the default name for the main repository, but we can have multiples and we can give them different names. So when we say git push -u origin, we're saying push this to GitHub and push it to the branch phase one on GitHub. And it's going to say, oh, that doesn't exist, I'll create it. And it will say created new branch. My phase one here is now pushing or connected to phase one on GitHub. Branch phase one, set up to track remote branch phase one from origin. So now if I go to GitHub, you see I have one branch, I'll refresh this, I'll end up with 2 branches. So now I actually have 2 different versions of my code. So on when I'm on master, branch master, I have nothing in here in my JS file. But if I switch to branch phase one, I've got my phase one branch in there. Okay. Any questions on anything that I have done in the last 45 minutes? How many of you were able to successfully put a map and put a marker down? Okay.
Map, not a marker.
Not a marker, but you got the map? Did you get it zoomed into your location?
Yeah.
Cool. Good. All right. You think you can do the marker now? Excellent. All right. Next up, phase two. Okay. Phase two is we're going to go completely sideways here. Okay. We're going away from the map and we're going to a different part of Mapbox because Mapbox has two parts. Mapbox has this crazy map that we can do anything we want to, but it also has like a proper API that we can use to do fetches against. Okay. So that API, we're going to be focusing on one aspect of that API called geocoding. Okay, so geocoding, you're able to do two different types of geocoding generally with any geocoding API. So geocoding, the concept of geocoding is pretty common. And what it is essentially saying, here is a string. Give me a location, give me a list of locations that match this string. Okay, so if we actually, let's go take a look here. Okay, and we'll go to Maps APIs, search. It's under search service. You have a direct link to the API endpoint. Okay, forward. So we're going to be geocoding. If you look at geocoding, it does two things: forward geocoding and reverse geocoding. Forward geocoding converts location text into geographic coordinates. Okay. For example, if you were to give it this text, it would return these coordinates. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily return exact matches because if I type in the word sushi, where is it looking for sushi, right? Is it looking for sushi in Tokyo? Is it looking for it? Geocoding is a worldwide thing, right? So you type in something and it attempts, I don't know what the default location is that it tries to search from, okay, but it's going to try to find words that match, locations that match that word. That might be a street. Maybe it finds sushi street. I don't know, but it's going to return up to, this one only returns up to 10 results. And so we need to try, part of using geocoding is trying to reduce that result set so that way it's more meaningful to the user. For example, if I'm over here and I type in the word sushi, I want sushi that's close to me, right? I don't want sushi that's in Texas, right? That wouldn't make sense to me as a user. And so part of our use case for this API is to create a more restrictive search. So it's providing the user with with better results, right? In our case, we only get 10. It will only return 10 results. So we want to give them the best 10 results we can. Okay, so that's geocoding. Okay, and we're going to be doing forward geocoding. Reverse geocoding is give them a latitude and longitude. They will give you locations at that latitude and longitude. But we don't have the latitude and longitude, right? I want to be able to search for something close by. Okay, so we're going to be doing forward geocoding. Okay, so the API looks like this. Okay, and you would probably need to pop up to the top to find out exactly how to use their URL. Okay. Introduction. access tokens. Does it, I remember going through this yesterday. Pagination, I think we're doing, oh, right here, access tokens and scope. Okay. So you would find this. Okay. Endpoint, access token. What is our access token?
API key.
It is this thing right here. So we're going to throw a little $sign in there. I'm going to throw a little bit of that in there. There we go. Now our endpoint. We need to figure out our endpoint. So our endpoint is based on this search here. Okay, it will tell us forward geocoding. We're going endpoint. So the forward geocoding query allows you to look up a single location by name and return to geographic coordinates. And we're going to look up one of Mapbox places or Mapbox places permanent as described in the endpoint's location, which means you're going to have to read that. And it's going to essentially tell you you're not allowed to use this unless you pay. Mapbox places permanent is not available for you unless you pay. So you'll have to go there here. Oh, and we need this too. Okay, so we're Mapbox, geocoding, version 5, geocoding from here. And then the last piece is we need search text.json. Okay, so this search text is going to be our results. So let's just try this with something like sushi. And we'll do a quick fetch. This. And we'll do this.
It must be then.
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 Oh, yeah. I need more coffee. Thanks.
I thought you were teaching us a new thing, and I'm like,
yeah.
What's that?
This is brand new. It just came out yesterday. Console.log data. Okay, so we're just going to check out our data. So great. We're going to position this on the map, and also we're going to go fetch sushi places. Let's see what we get. Okay. Refresh. Allow. Okay. And we got, here is our object, Mapbox, and its suppliers. All rights reserved. POIs provided by Foursquare. POIs is points of interest. Okay. And we got, here is our query. And our features are the things that it found. It found 5 points of interest. And we open one. We can see where it's located. Context. I don't know what that is. Place name. Tokyo, Aruba, Saudi Arabia. So it's a sushi restaurant called Tokyo. Text is the name of the place. Place name is a very specific place. So Tokyo restaurant on Aruba Road in this location, Saudi Arabia. Okay. Place number 2, Tokyo Kawaii in Russia. So you see, these results are not useful to me, right? We need some way to focus these things. So let's look at this API a little bit more. Required parameters, things that are required. The endpoint, we've established that. And the search text, we've established that. Optional parameters. Autocomplete. Specifies whether to return autocomplete results. We're not going to use that. border box, B box. Limit results to only those contained within a supplied bounding box of latitude and longitude. So we can form a box of latitude and longitudinal, two latitudinal and longitudinal points to create a box around an area and say, only give us results in that box. That one's not bad. Country, limit results to a specific country. Fuzzy match, don't worry about that. That helps with, fuzzy matching helps with people spelling the words incorrectly. So instead of sushi, let's say I wrote suhi, it could figure out sushi. Language, limit. We'll probably want to up our limit. Specify the maximum number of results to return. The default is 5. Maximum supported is 10. So let's add limit in there. So I get 10. So all it is, again, these are query strings. Ampersand limit equals 10. So now I'm getting 10 results back. Proximity, bias the response to favor results that are closer to this location, provided as 2 comma separated coordinates in longitude, latitude order. This is the one. Proximity. Give me results based on the proximity to a latitude and longitude. My latitude and longitude. Ampersand. Proximity. Proximity equals longitude, latitude. Except I can't do it like that because it takes it as a comma separated value. Okay, let's now.
There's an equal sign missing after proximity.
Proximity, yeah, perfect. There you go, thank you. Let's take a look at the results I get now. So now proximity is using my latitude and longitude. The problem is I'm doing this fetch outside of this geolocation thing. So if I want to use these positions, I have to move it to inside here. They don't exist outside, or I have to do some other fancy stuff. Okay, let's take a look at that. Allow. There we go. Here's our new feature. We got 10 because we set our limit to 10. And there we go. Exactly this list. Sushi N, Sushi I, Sushi Gozen, Hero Sushi. Okay. So exactly those spots. And they're all, yeah.
Does the parameter proximity always returns the result by the distance?
I feel like it didn't. I feel like it didn't. I'm kind of surprised that this one is exactly this order because I reordered this in my example. Here we go. Kaja Sushi. Yeah. Momo Sushi is further than Kaja Sushi. But so no, it doesn't return it in the order, in the distance. I calculated the distance here and I reordered this whole thing in terms of distance and they are not in order. This one was just very, very close. Yeah.
Hey,
So
John.
does the, do we still like need that proximity?
Proximity? Yeah, totally. Because if you don't set the proximity.
Oh, it's global, right?
Yeah, it won't know where to search. So you typically, like, if you think of, Kevin, I'll get to you in a sec. If you think of like, the way, for example, if any of you use Skip the Dishes, right? They are not doing proximity. They're doing something different. They're doing bounding box based on the user's current location, right? This is not my address. I don't know whose address this is. 76 Basinger. Weird. That's weird. That's not my address. but they're using a bounding box, right? They're only showing me, the bounding box means there's a box of 2 coordinates, right? Created by 2 coordinates. So there's a box, and they're only showing me restaurants inside there. They're not necessarily ordered by, distance or proximity. They're ordered probably by, looks like rating or something like that, or maybe type. So that's a little bit different, but yeah, you would want either one of those two, either bounding box or proximity or something, because you want to reduce that result set. Kevin?
Hi. Do you want to refresh? I'm just curious if the fetch is going to be like the transit API where it's just going to be random every time you fetch it, or if it's going to.
My next thought is that, and my next thought, and this the documentation might specify how the data is returned. I can't imagine that it's by, I can't imagine that it's by distance, but like maybe it's driving distance. Maybe it's driving distance. So something that is 6.7 kilometers might actually be closer because it's quicker to drive there. But let me refresh this and see if it's in the same order.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I don't think it's going to affect anything we need. I'm just curious.
No, it's not. No. Sushi N, Sushi I, Sushi Gozen, Hiro Sushi, Iggy, Sushi Jet. Yeah, so they're pretty close to the ones to this, but
there is like some kind of order to it then. Like,
yeah,
it's just
there is. It's the same order. I don't know. It might be on. It might be like a. I don't know. I don't know what the order is. It doesn't say. But yeah. The order I'm asking you for is just ordered by distance. And you'll have to look up a way of calculating the distance between two points, latitude and longitude. You can just look that up online. Sorry.
Is there a term that describes the consistency of the data we fetch? Like for wind transit, it wasn't that much, but this one is very clean compared to that.
A term? No. Okay. The terminology you just used is perfectly fine. And you mean clean like
a easy. Consistent.
Like it's more consistent, right?
Yeah, before it was like there's departure, there's no arrival.
Yeah, no. And there is no standard.
Mm.
Yeah, so every API that you connect to is going to be different. Okay. Some of them will be missing information. I've worked with APIs before where I have to send the author emails and be like, I would expect to be able to do this with your API. But you're missing pieces. Like there's just clearly pieces missing. Can you add them? And they have gone ahead and added them so I could do what I need to with it. Because they want to try to build out their stuff too so that it's usable. Okay. But good question. No standard in terms of responses, no standard in terms of documentation. They're similar. Like they will usually say, here's our endpoint. Here's our parameters, here's how to use it, but nothing specific. No standard at all. And then there's one more piece that I would recommend adding, and that is the type. So we can focus on types of results that are returned. So we can say like, don't look for points of interests, look for countries, look for neighborhoods, look for localities, look for places, look for addresses, right? So that way we can like say, no, don't look for restaurants, look for neighborhoods. So when I type in sushi, it will look around for any neighborhoods called sushi, right? I would recommend setting that to point of interest if you wanted specific points of interest, or if you wanted something more like generic or general, you can set that to PO. You could not set it at all. Like I don't have it set at all. So if I typed in, instead of sushi, if I typed in Royalwood, right, you'll get a a neighborhood that's close by. So you see neighborhood, point of interest, point of interest, point of interest, address. I'm guessing these are like maybe Royalwood Park or something, Royalwood Bridge, Royalwood Apartments, okay? This one is probably Royalwood Drive or something. Oh, this is in Minnesota. But this one would be the neighborhood Royalwood, which is close, right beside my house, Royalwood, okay? So you can help focus. You can help focus these search results if you wanted to. Okay, so today what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to attach this. So let's take a look at phase 2. Phase 2, using our location. Okay, perform a forward geocode for points of interest. Determine the distance to each of them and display. So we looked at how we can do a forward geocode. We looked at how we can use the user's current location. We haven't looked at how we can calculate the distance between 2 points. That is going to be up to you. Do a quick Google search for it, okay? This is the type of thing that happens all the time. Oh, and we're going to want to display the distance between these 2 points for the users. And you're going to say, oh, I've never done that before. How am I going to do that? You're not going to go to the client and be like, how do I do that? You're expected to figure it out, okay? Quick Google search will tell you exactly how. There's actually little snippets, functions of JavaScript that you can just grab that will calculate the distance between 2 points, okay? Sort the points of interest returned by the geocoding based on distance to the user in ascending order. So you're going to want to calculate those distances and sort them. Okay, not hard. You can sort. I know you can. We've done sorting before. And then output that listing to the page. Okay, so then the last thing we're going to do is output that listing. So it's going to replace this listing here. Then tomorrow, the final piece is going to be click on one of them, move the map, drop a new pin, and that's it.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to know, like, for the API, the default type of for this example. So the type is going to be POI, right?
No. Well, I would recommend POI, but the default type is everything. So, like, I did not specify a default type here in mine. I did not specify a default type, and the result is everything. I get neighborhood, I get POI, I get address. If I say type, where is this? Let's put it right here, right at the beginning. Type equals POI, %. Okay. If I say type equals POI and I try Royalwood again, I'm not going to get any addresses. I'm not going to get any neighborhoods. I'm only going to get POIs. Maybe I didn't reference that correctly. Oh, types. There we go. Let's try that. I only got 7 back, and it's 7 POIs. Yeah. So if you don't include it, it counts everything. It'll look at everything. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
I have a general question.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're talking about how we don't really have any kind of uniform standard for APIs or anything like that.
Yep.
I'm just curious, have you heard of GraphQL?
Yep.
Is that kind of working towards trying to get something like in place that's kind of more uniform?
Kind of. The idea behind GraphQL is that we want to be able to only, like, okay, so they are giving us a lot of data that we don't need, right?
Yeah.
Think of the bus thing, right? They're giving us a lot of data that we don't need. The idea behind GraphQL is kind of twofold. It's one, only taking the data, only taking the pieces of information that we need. So only the 3 pieces that we care about,
Yeah.
right? So we're getting those in. And 2, giving us a way to transform the data on its way in. So if we don't want it in this format, we can redefine the format. The benefit of doing something like that is maybe one day we can change the endpoint.
Yeah.
And then instead of getting it from Winnipeg Transit, maybe we're getting it from this new location, this new API that came about that manages all the buses for all of Canada, and it's way better. Now, without having to change too much of our code, we just have to change that little piece of GraphQL, and the data that's coming in, we're again rearranging it into the format that we expect. And so GraphQL helps support that.
This is
So that's the idea.
Right? Like it's not something that we touch on or learn?
No,
Okay.
that's more advanced.
Okay.
That's much more advanced because like,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, that would be a use case for it, like in this area, because we do work with a lot of APIs.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, cool. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do some gulp, and then I'll let you go, and you can keep working on your map. Okay, make sure you understand how to do this. If you have any questions about it, please. No one asked me anything yesterday, so. Okay, I'll see you in 15 minutes, 20 after 10. Okay. Google would have the best data. Google would probably have the best information. But this is the sign for money, right? We got to pay for that. Okay. Let's talk about Node Package Manager. And more specifically, let's talk about Gulp. On, what are we today? Thursday? On Tuesday, I introduced you to Gulp. Gulp is a task runner, right? That we use to run tasks on our machine. And these tasks, again, the ones that we're going to be running, so the way for this course that we're going to be using Node Package Man, or Node in general, the way for this course that we're going to be using Node is more to help support our developer workflow, okay, as opposed to writing programs. So we're going to be, we're writing little programs, little scripts. They're everything that we do as a program, right? But we're not writing like applications, okay, for this. We're simply going to write little scripts to help support our development workflow. Okay, more specifically, we're going to be writing our code in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and we're going to be using Node to help manage some of that stuff, those tasks that we do frequently that we don't want to do manually anymore because they take time. So we're going to spend a little bit of time learning about something to save a lot of time in the future. On Tuesday, we looked at Gulp, the task runner, and we looked at a library called gulp-clean-css, okay? So the thing is, when you're looking for libraries for Gulp, is you have to find specific libraries for Gulp, which is a little bit limiting sometimes because clean CSS in general is a library, but it's a command line library that we have to type in clean CSS, here's the CSS file. But Gulp gives us a way to attach a lot of things together and gives us a nice interface, and it gives us a very specific language to work with. So we're looking for very specific libraries. Today, we're going to review our Gulp exercise, okay? So our Gulp exercise was Introduction to Gulp using assignment 1 from SD140, which we just finished. Install Gulp and Gulp clean CSS, write a Gulp task that will compress our CSS, output it to a new destination directory. Okay, so let's do that. So so let me go get the solution for assignment 1. I'm gonna copy the solution over to my home directory. I'm gonna work right in here. Okay. It is located in here. 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 8? That's an 8. That's a 9.
Is that 10 and 11?
Yeah, 10. Okay, so we're going to copy assignment 1, assignment 1, solution. We're going to copy that, and we're going to copy that over to here. And copy requires a -r. What does -r mean? What do you think it means? Any idea?
I know this.
I know you know this. I know you know this. I know a lot of you know it, and then as soon as I say, you'll be like, oh yeah, okay. Recursive. It means it's not just copying the top level directory. It's copying the top level directory, all the files inside of that, all the directories inside of that, and the files, right, all the way down. So it's going to copy everything inside here. So now if I look, I have my solution. My solution has all this stuff in it, okay, which we can, for the most part, ignore. I am going to install gulp. Okay, I'm going to install gulp. So we're going to do my gulp is already installed. My gulp CLI is already installed globally. But when I run gulp here, it's going to say, there's no gulp. Try running npm local gulp not found. Try running npm install gulp. Okay. And we're going to run it in this directory because this is the directory that I want to run it in, that I want to run my task runner. Slow today. All right, there we go. Okay, so first thing we need to do, we need to make a gulp file. Okay. And save that, gulp file.js. This is just JavaScript. And we're going to say const gulp equals require gulp. And this is essentially going to look for the package called gulp by default from our node modules folder. And it's going to it's going to pull something out of it. How require actually works, let's just call it magic. It's not magic. I can go into the details, but let's pretend it's just magic for now. It pulls gulp. The module gulp is telling, is essentially advertising, here is the thing that you can take from me. And so when require is called, it takes the thing. Whatever gulp said, here is the thing. Okay, and that is actually based on this other thing that we use, export default. And we'll actually end up using that here, okay? Export. Yeah. Okay, so actually this is the advertisement. So when we do this, we're essentially advertising, this is what you're allowed, this is the opposite of this. We're saying if anyone ever requires us, here is the default function or object or something that you get. Okay, so for example, if we had an object, okay, and we said export default OBJ, then if someone were to require us, and they said require gulp file.js, they would receive our object by default. That's what they would get on the other side. Not super important. I don't usually talk about this stuff, but some people want to know how the magic works. So that's kind of really high level.
Could you elaborate on, so it's all on the same page?
No. So inside this gulp module, somewhere in there, they're doing an exports default something. Okay. And this something inside of there is an object. And it's got all the gulp methods, right? Like, for example, we already know of a couple gulp methods, gulp.src, gulp.destn, okay, or dest. Okay, so they would have an object inside their module that would have src, which is a function. Okay, they would have dest, which is a function. Okay, so they would have that, and then they would export that. They would export. They wouldn't have this. So theirs would look something like this.
So this page is asking to get something from gulp by requiring.
Yeah. So our page is asking to get something from gulp, and we're import. This is an import require. Think of it like we're importing something, but for us to import something, they need to export something, right? If you think of how trade works, right? We need exporters and importers. If someone's not exporting something, you can't import it. So somewhere inside their thing, they're doing exports default. Now we're also doing exports default because we're exporting our goods so that way we can access it from here, the command line, because we're going to do gulp minify if we wanted to, right? If we wanted to export our minify function, which we are going to write right now, function minify CSS.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll keep going on this too, because I think it's useful, super useful. Okay, so minify CSS equals minify CSS. All right, so we need also now to include gulp minify CSS, which means I can't remember I can go to the documentation, which I probably should. So I'm going to head on over there because our gulp clean CSS. I linked to the documentation, and we have our package gulp clean CSS. We have our little install thing right here. I'm just going to copy that. Just click it and paste. And again, that all happens in the directory where we want this to exist. Okay. And it's all happening inside of our node modules folder. Okay. And it's got a little bit of documentation on how to use it, including our require. So they are also exporting something. Okay. And actually we can see that right here from their GitHub repository if we wanted to take a look. They will have a line, right? So this is pretty straightforward. This is a very straightforward library. So they would have an export somewhere. There you go, module exports. And they're using a module too. But so they would have an export. So they're exporting their thing too, because we need to be, again, if we want to import it, they need to export it. And so we're importing it here, clean CSS from gulp-clean-CSS. And all we're going to do is we're going to look for all the CSS files. Okay. So we're going to say gulp dot source. And this allows us to specify a location. Okay. You might see these referred to sometime as a glob. Okay. So you actually see it right here, globs. Okay. Which is essentially a string that represents a file / directory, okay, or a set of files. So we're going to look inside of our own, and we're going to look for star.css, anything that ends in star.css, okay? So this will find all the CSS files. And then we're going to .pipe, right? Because we're going to pipe it in to something else. So we've got all these CSS files. Now we're going to pipe it in to clean CSS. Okay. Compatibility, again, if you wanted to know a bit more like option, again, so you see this again, third time today, an argument with a object as the argument. So instead of just doing this, right, which doesn't bring a lot of value or clarity to it, we're doing this, an argument with an object. So essentially named arguments. Okay, compatibility is not required, but it clearly defines what we're sending in here. And there will be others. If you wanted to know more information, you would just go to the documentation, which would be probably on the home page on here. What are the options we can pass in? Clean CSS has its own full library, so you can take a look at that if you ever wanted to. But, all right. Now, next up, this is going to pipe it in to clean CSS. Clean CSS is going to minimize it. Now we need to say, where are you going to go in the end? And we're going to say, we're going to send you to a directory called destination or distribution. Either are fine. Okay, I said dest, but dist is fine too. Okay, and there you have it. That's it. Okay, I run this task now, so then I need to export. Okay, if I don't perform this export and I try to run gulp, it says there are no tasks. Task never defined, default. Okay, there are default tasks. So if I don't specify a task here when I run gulp, see, I'm not specifying anything, it attempts to find a task called default. I don't have a default task. Even calling this default doesn't mean it's default. What default means is I'm exporting something called default. Okay, so if I export something called default, then by default, when I run gulp, it will run whatever I exported as default. Dest on is not a function. Oh, this is gulp.dest. And there we go. Now, see those red lines there? Using here, starting the task default, the following tasks did not complete default. Now, it did complete. I have a dist directory. If I go into the dist directory and I look at my CSS files and I cat one of them, style CSS, it worked. But the thing is, it needs to be told that it completed, okay? Because these are asynchronous tasks. tasks in Gulp by default are asynchronous. So you can run many different functions at once, and they can perform. So I can minify my CSS and do something else at the same time. Okay. It needs to be told when it was completed. So we put in the CB and we invoke it. Now this can be called anything, but you'll just see this as a kind of a convention. I can call it John if I wanted to. And I just run the John task, okay? And this signifies completion. I'm done, okay? You'll see that CB as the standard. And so if we come back here and we run it again, there we go, we don't get those red things.
Can I ask you a question?
No. Sure, okay, fine, you get one.
Okay. Do you mind switch back to VS Code?
Yep.
If, let's say we want to do a couple things using GOP,
Okay.
and you mentioned yesterday, usually is going to be a anonymous function after exports.default, right?
No, it can. It can be. You can do this. I don't remember mentioning that, but you can do this. You can do that.
So
if you wanted to.
yeah, so if I wanted to do a couple of things, do I like do this and have couple exports.default equals this and equals that, or do I just put everything within that function?
So let's talk about that today. Okay, this is actually I couldn't have asked for a better question actually. So before I move on to that, any other questions on this specifically? Minify CSS.
Hi, John.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'll come back to your question. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Bing.
It's not questions. I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
The source method.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something like syntax sugar, like combine the stream and nice with something like it very seems like fetch. The fetch return promise and SRC return a stream.
I am not sure. I've never really dug into this before. This is pretty common. This globbing concept is pretty common. I'm not exactly sure what source returns. It might be promise-based. But you know what? We can always just console.log that and find out. I don't know what we'll get out of here, but we'll find out. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what this is. It's probably something promise-based or something like that to be able to attach. Well, this would be opening a file stream. So it is syntactic sugar, but it's also abstraction, right? It's my assumption here, without looking into it, is that it's abstracting away file IO, right? It is opening file input output to all these files. File IO is can be synchronous or asynchronous depending on how you want to do it. And so they're probably wrapping it in some sort of callback or promise that allows them to chain things onto it like this. And then this callback, the CB here, is possibly closing the IO to that. I don't know. I mean, if I knew that, I could probably write gulp. But good question. Okay.
Sorry, I still have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So I still didn't get what is the line 8 do, like the CB.
It signifies completion. It's kind of like saying, when you're done, push this button to let us know, or ring this bell, right? Ring the bell, and that's exactly what we're doing. Gulp says, when you're done doing your stuff, the bell. And so we're just doing what we're being told to do, ring the bell. Okay, because it needs to know when this is complete. It wants to know when this is complete. This is it's not required. It will still work. It will complain about it though. They'll say, "Oh, you didn't ring the bell. I didn't know you were done."
So it's just like kind of like return, right?
Yeah, except we also can return from these. Okay, because we can chain these. We're allowed to chain these. We can say first minify our CSS, then change our CSS files into something else, right? So we can chain these things onto each other. We will look at that, but we can also return. If we return, we don't need to signify completion.
Oh, okay.
But when we don't return, we need to signify completion. This is a gulp thing. Specifically, it mentions.
It's kind of like a syntax.
It is a syntax thing. So a lot of this stuff is brought to us through Gulp. Like, yes, this is JavaScript, but this is not core JavaScript. This is extended JavaScript provided by Gulp. This is all on the Gulp object itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's add in the next level. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring us to an older project. Let's grab an old, I think I have one set up already. Downloads, Google Drive, some 30. Image min. Okay. Oh, I got nothing in here because it's in here. So we're going to be doing image min today. So image min. So we did clean CSS. We're going to be looking at image min. Image min is a image minification library. Okay. So we're going to go and grab our Pied Piper one. That's the one I was going to use. Okay, so we're going to go back in time. We're going to go to SD100 and we're going to go to lessons. I just have to find, oh, perfect. I couldn't have guessed that better. Okay, so we're going to copy this. We're going to paste it over in downloads. Okay. And we're going to pop on over there. Okay, so this is our Pied Piper. This is our Pied Piper exercise. I don't know if you remember. The web page looked like this, right? And we had links that went to different pages. Okay, so we've got some images here. Okay, we've got some images here, and these images are fine. They're whatever size. I don't know if they're. I don't know what the minification is going to look like in the end. I don't know if I've already minified them, but we're going to minify them from the command line in an automated fashion. Okay. So that's our next one, image min. So here I have a new folder. I'm going to need to install Gulp. Okay. I'm also going to install CSS, our CSS minification. I'm also going to install our image min library. Okay, and we'll take a look at that. We'll see how we can run multiple tasks too. Okay. And I think hopefully this should answer your question, Yushin.
Yeah, I was just trying to do this and it worked, but I'm just not sure if I did this in the right manner.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. And then I've got a link in our exercise, which you can grab. Our exercise is just going to be applying this to a sample that I've already provided you. So I've provided you with a sample, okay? I've also provided you with a little bit of reading on composing tasks. How can we run multiple tasks? Okay, different ways that we can compose tasks together. Because now we're not just doing one task, now we're doing two tasks. By the time we're done this course, like come tomorrow, I'm gonna throw 5 things at you. I'm not just gonna do one a day. We're just gonna look at Gulp, then we're gonna do 1, we're gonna do 2. After 2, they all start to look very similar. Now we're gonna do 5, and we're gonna compose them together, okay? So we're looking at clean CSS and image min. So image min. Okay, image min. So we're gonna have to copy this. We're gonna need to install that. And we're also gonna need to install Gulp Clean CSS. Now, I know we're installing a lot of stuff and you probably think like, man, we do this every day. We generally don't install modules all the time, every day, right? Remember, we're not working on 20 projects a day. We usually work on the same project for many days at a time. And so we're not performing this task a lot. But yes, when you start working on a new project, it may take you half an hour to install all the stuff to get the project up and running and working. It's usually a one-time thing. It's got a lot of dependencies. Ah, some big one. Okay, there we go. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see what happened here. Install JS, compiling from source. Auto recomp failed. Okay. That GIFsicle. Okay, that might be okay. I don't need to do any GIFs. Auto recomp not found. So this is an error. It's still installed. Okay, it's still installed successfully. Added 290 packages. The really crazy thing is, if you look at the size of this directory, already my node modules directory, du -h, I think summary, is already 29 megs. That's pretty big. Like there's nothing in it. 29 megs is pretty big. The other thing we're going to install is Gulp, or npm install Gulp clean CSS. Right, that was the other one. So occasionally you might get errors when you install things. Sometimes that'll be okay. Sometimes it won't. Oh, I'm getting the. And the same issue here. Command failed. Auto recomp not found. I never encountered that before. Oh, that's so weird. Okay, whatever. Let's give this a shot. Okay, so we're going to code. We're going to make our Gulp file, code file, that's JS. And we're going to do image minification, okay? Yes, okay, sure. Okay, actually I don't want this to be gitted anymore. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before, require gulp. But this time we're learning a new one. So image min, gulp image min. And you'll see documentation is very much the same. Const require image min. Okay. And now we're pretty much, here's a different approach. Exports default equals this. A function, an anonymous inline function. This could have been this. It's the same thing. Exactly what we did over here. That was just a different way of putting it together. Okay, it was just the function did not have a name, so they're exporting instead of exporting a function name, they're exporting a function without a name right in line. And so I just undid that just to show you, okay, that this is the same thing. Okay, these two are identical. Okay, so how does this work? Pretty straightforward. Source for the images, destination for the images, in between, call the image min library. Look familiar? Right? So our source for the images, though, is not src images. We know that, right? It's because we don't have this directory. If you look at my file system, they're all just in the same directory as my gulp file. They're all right here. So we're going to say, actually, it's just // star. Here's all of our images. It is only going to look for images. If I only want to look for specific images, I can say a specific image type. Okay, but I'm just going to leave star because it's just going to look for all images. It's going to pass them through image min, and it's going to output them to a new directory. Again, this could be anything I want. It will create the directory if it doesn't exist, or multiple directories if they don't exist, and destination images. So let's run this. And it is exported as default, so I can just use gulp. And it's minify images, really. We'll just run gulp. That's fine. And again, I forgot to signify completion. CB. And it says I saved 407 bytes on the 3 images that it minified. Not great. I'm sure I could probably find a good image to minify. Let's just go grab an Apple logo here. Or just not apple.ca, just Apple. Grab an image here that's probably not, yeah, we'll take this image. Save image as, and we'll dump it into here. Just dump it right here. Okay, so we'll try it again. We'll run it again. We'll see if we get some better results. So we have our Apple right here, which is pretty big. Okay, we've got, it's 172K. I guess it's not that big, but we'll run it again and see if we get a better compression. Yeah, we got better compression on that one. So remember back in the day when I said you should be running you should be optimizing all your images? Now you don't have to run it. So I had an error installing this GIF compression plugin. that it needs. So I wouldn't be able to do any GIFs. So I need to figure out how to resolve that first. But it can do JPEGs and PNGs, no problem. And these are just JPEGs and PNGs. Okay, so we can automate compression of our images. We can automate compression of our images. We can automate compression of our CSS. Let's add CSS into the mix here because we already have CSS. So I'm just going to copy that over. So we have two things. Okay, so we have clean CSS installed. We have image min installed. Okay, now how do we get both of these to run at the same time? Okay, and that's where the reading comes in. Okay, so if you look at the reading for today, composing tasks, how do we compose our tasks? Okay, we can say series, okay, or we can say parallel. So series, what does series sound like? Then, 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 right? In series. Parallel means at the same time. So we have a choice when we're running our tasks down here. We can say gulp.series, the two tasks that we want, or we can say, and this will run them in series. Minify images first, minify CSS second. Do they need to be run in series? Do you think? Does this one have to happen before this one? Or can they both happen at the same time?
They can happen at the same time.
Yeah, so why don't we run them in parallel? So we'll run them in parallel instead. So now we're saying, run these two in parallel. Okay, so we can have as many as we want here. Okay, and then, so you can see different samples here of how they put them together. Okay, but it's essentially just a combination of series and parallel. Because some tasks, we can do it where some tasks depend on results from the previous tasks. Okay, so let's try this again. And there we go. We did both. Starting task default. Task default starts both of these, and they both start. And they finish at different times because they take different lengths, but that's okay. And then we finish this, and we already know about these errors that we have, so that's no big deal. Okay, and there we go. So now if we go to look in our dist directory, we have our CSS that has been minified, and we have our images. And all we did was run one task. So now, this is going to continue to expand. We've got two tasks. Tomorrow, we're going to add like 4 or 5 more tasks. So now, when we run our project, we're going to hit one button. It's going to do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. It's going to create this whole new directory. It's going to minify all the images. It's going to compress things. It's going to transpile things. Okay, it's going to do all this stuff that we have not yet done manually, and we're never going to do manually. Okay, but we could. We did actually. Sorry, we could manually minify CSS. We can go to a website. We can drop in our CSS. We can hit enter. It will minify it. We can copy that. We can paste it back in. We can also go to the Panda website, bring all of our images there, copy that. Like, we don't want to do that every time. We want to do it like this. We want to create a script, okay, that does this for us. Does this answer your question, Yushin?
Yeah. I apparently I did the wrong. I used the wrong method to do it. But now
you use serial?
No, I just put everything into one function.
Oh, you can do that too. You can do that too. So this is not the only way. You can also do this. Right? You can do that, right? Do stuff. You can do the do stuff function, right? And then you export default do stuff. And then you just call gulp, and that will do the same thing. That's another way to do it. But remember, we like small pieces that do very specific things, not just in gulp, but in general in programming. So I would recommend not. You can also do something like this too. You can do that too. And then that's another way. But gulp, you'll find more of a structured approach with this, right? That if you look at gulp files, you'll find that people do it in a very conventional way using the tools that gulp provides. So this is another way, right? You have a function that calls both of your other functions, and then you're just running that one function.
Thanks.
Oh, CB is not a function. For who? CB? Oh yeah, I'd have to pass that through. Okay. So your task tonight is essentially going to be to reproduce the same thing. My recommendation is not to come back to the video and rewatch this, because I'm pretty much doing it for you. My recommendation, because you will find that for the most part, this stuff is very repetitive in nature, right? You do this once, you do it 1,000 times. And so my challenge to you is try to do this without watching the video. Look at the documentation, see if you can figure stuff out on your own. When you get stuck after your 2 hours, now after your 45 minutes, okay, come back and look at the video, okay? Because then you'll be able to pretty much you'll almost be able to copy and paste what I did and apply it. And that's no fun, okay? You're not learning anything. You need to challenge yourself a little bit, okay? So it's going to be clone a repository. The file system is structured a little bit differently, but the style sheets won't work properly because they're looking for the CSS in a very specific location, and that location does not exist yet. So you're going to create that location by doing this, okay? And then once you're done, the page should work. It doesn't look good, but it looks better. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, should take you about half an hour to 45 minutes.
Sorry. So my question is, so the exports.default, that only can be used once, right?
Yeah, you can only have one default, but you can have as many other things as you want, as many other exports. So I can export John, and John can be minify CSS. And then on the other side, I can say gulp John, and it will run minify CSS. So you can break them up. So let's see if I run gulp John, it's running the John task. Task never defined John. What?
So can you do gulp John and the space default?
Oh, I need to save it. Gulp John space default?
No. I mean, like in Bash, in a.
Oh, can you run multiple tasks at once?
Yeah.
John
and the space.
Ray. Let's make 2 tasks. Let's make a Ray task as well. And Ray will minify the images. Okay, so let's do John Ray. Yes. Starting task John, starting task Ray, finish. There you go. Yep.
So which means this is also the another method to do like multitasks?
If you wanted to, yeah, you'd find a combination. I think you'd find probably something like this, where it was like parallel minify, comma, minify. And then you'd also see it broken down like this. So it's like you can have it all, right? You can run them both at once, or you can run them separately. So you're kind of giving people the option here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep. We're currently only looking at doing this in terms of a website, but if you wanted to run Gulp on your folder of family photos to optimize all of them, you are more than welcome to, right? Like if you have a folder of images on your computer and you want to optimize them, compress them to the best of their ability so they're maintain more or less the same visual cues, but smaller file sizes, go ahead. This is not restricted to website stuff. Okay, CSS obviously is, but image minification, you could do that with any directory on your computer that you want, whatever. Okay, we're just writing little scripts here that help us with our developer workflow. It just so happens that image minification is part of our developer workflow. Okay. Any other questions? So tomorrow we're going to be digging into several more libraries in Gulp, and we're going to be chaining them. So here, these are totally separate. Tomorrow we're going to be doing things that are dependent on each other. Like I need to do one of these before I need to do the next thing, before I do the next thing. Finally, I do this one. Okay, so we're going to look at how that looks and different ways of doing that. So make sure you're comfortable with at least doing this. For your final project, I'm essentially going to be asking you to do all this Git stuff and all this Gulp stuff all together. Okay, for assignment number 2, which is coming up on probably Tuesday, I'm going to ask you to do only Gulp. Okay, so be comfortable with that. Question, comments, concerns before we go? All right, it's Thursday today, so we've got one more day tomorrow, and then we have a long weekend. So remember, no school on Monday. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Enjoy playing with your maps. Enjoy playing with some Gulp. I highly recommend, if you finish things early, explore. And I also highly recommend, don't take the afternoon off and not program. Go program, pretend you're in class. Okay. I don't know what people do, and I get concerned sometimes that some of you just, cool, I'm done school for today. Please program. Okay, you got to program every day. You guys are one of the strongest classes I've had come through. Keep it up. The job opportunities are going to be spectacular for you. Okay. Hopefully we'll get back in the classroom soon. And I will see you tomorrow, 8:45.